Welcome back to Talkin Shop with ShopSabre. I'm Brandon, back with Jesse and Garrett for episode 53.
All right.
Morning, guys.
It's over a year.
We have a guest today.
We do.
Who's our guest today?
Who is it, Garrett?
Mr. Lee Rodenhamel.
Lee Rodenhamel in the building.
All right. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Miss us?
Oh, yeah. You bet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a tumor.
Love this weather.
Yeah, as I say, he missed the
yeah.
weather probably more than anything.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was
Weather's
Balmy
great
32 degrees outside.
Snow.
left 86 and sunny. Yeah, I mean, it was, never thought I would say that.
There's a good chance we'll see snow here in June this year, I think. Or on
We might see it in July.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Hey.
I think you have to have the ice houses off the lake by the fireworks on July 4th.
July 4th.
I think that's what they said. I think by July 4th we have to have
Feels
ice.
that way, doesn't it?
Oh, my God, dude. I walked outside yesterday and I was like, why is it this cold still?
It's dumb.
It is
Are
dumb.
we ever going to see spring?
Probably not.
I don't think
We're going
so.
straight to summer. You mark my words.
I put my jacket away. What was it? Early April when it was really warm, and
It's your fault.
I refused to take it back out.
that's
It's
what
your
happened.
fault.
Yeah, you put the coat away.
Take the jacket back out so the rest of
I
us can
can't.
warm up.
I can't.
My God. Yeah, it's cold outside.
Yeah, it's nasty.
It's not fun.
No.
29 right now. I didn't know it was that cold.
Now you're very cold.
Well, it's 3:30 in the morning, so
Icky.
that's nice.
Icky.
This janitor closet's about
It's warm in
39
here.
degrees right
It's
now.
warm in here. There's a lot of
No.
body heat.
Yeah, there's a lot of
today.
body heat today. This thing should warm up pretty quick here.
Lee, you're on my knee.
That's my bucket, though.
No, that's his bucket, though.
Yeah, no. So last week we talked a little bit about handling rejection in a business, correct?
Yeah, did it bring up some pain for you from high school? Or
Yeah,
what?
a lot of high school pain
Still
was brought
dealing
up.
with a little bit of that?
Doing okay over here.
All right.
Yep. But no, so I thought last week's episode went really well. I know this week we're going to talk a little bit about, well, we have Leon, so it means we're going to talk about plasma. Yeah. We're going to talk about plasma versus laser this week.
Cool.
Should be a
Like
good
it.
time.
I just had a good conversation with a fella about this yesterday.
Yeah?
Yep.
And you were like, I have no idea. Listen to the podcast tomorrow.
Exactly. Like, check in tomorrow at the podcast. We'll give you all the information you need.
You're like, somebody else will tell you about this. Here
For
shortly.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, but like you said, we talked a little bit about the weather there, but how about life, guys? Did you do anything fun this last weekend?
No, I didn't.
Good.
No.
I laid on a couch or a bed with ice on my back.
I thought you rented a certain truck.
Bree rented a U-Haul truck
Oh.
to go pick up couches,
I
but
thought you had a Kia 150.
yeah, they don't fit in there.
What
I
about,
thought about it though. Trust me, I did.
what about
I
on
thought
top
about
of it?
It crossed my mind, and she got really upset. That's
So let
why
me
we
get this
U-Haul.
straight. You rented a U-Haul truck.
Yep.
What time did you pick that U-Haul up at?
We were supposed to pick it up at 12 in the afternoon.
What time did you actually end up having to do that?
I think we finally got it like 1:30 or 1 o'clock because Brianna had booked the U-Haul for 12 a.m.
Oh, it's that whole it happens twice a day thing,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
You have to look at that whole AM.
It's funny
PM.
too because she asks me all the time, like, which one's 12 p.m. and which one's 12 a.m. I'm like, for real?
For real?
This is a real question?
Is this really
It's all
happening?
the time, yeah.
So, but even better than this, I mean, you happen to have somebody that you know that owns a 30-foot enclosed race trailer.
Yeah, I do. I know a guy.
Yep.
Yep.
Instead, you rented a U-Haul.
Yeah, I
You
did.
had to go through that rigmarole.
You know what's
You know what's even
I started
better?
thinking about it.
No, wait. This gets better. Hold on. So then I walk up to you and said, "Hey, you know somebody who owns a 30-foot enclosed trailer."
Yeah.
And the first words out of your mouth were what?
What am I going to pull it with?
Yeah. Like I also own the 1 ton that pulls that.
If I'd had a hitch on the Kia, I'd have done it.
Yeah. Well, or you could
Look,
just
by
ask.
the time I paid for your diesel to drive from your place to my place to the couches, and then I had to pay for your $100 an hour time, I would have been better off buying a U-Haul.
I mean, you're not wrong, but that's beside the point. We both know I wasn't going to charge you for my time or my
I know.
diesel.
I had to.
But instead you got to play around with the U-Haul place.
Well, yeah, I don't like to inconvenience people. You know that.
Not inconvenience.
I don't like to ask for help.
Gets me out of yard work.
Yeah, if you would have said,
It's
"Hey, I'm
actually
doing yard work today,"
More inconvenient that you didn't call me.
like, "Hey, you want to go do some man stuff? Lift some heavy things for me?"
Yeah. No, I had my flower gloves on and I was picking rocks.
I wish I would have been there.
But no, yeah. So it sounded like you had a lot of fun with that.
I did. What'd you boys do?
Absolutely nothing. I don't even think I left the house. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday, I didn't even leave. So
Boys being a homeowner, huh?
yeah, that was pretty nice.
Yep. That's pretty
I
cool.
gamed for about 12 hours a day.
Wow.
You said that. to people? Like, people know that you're doing that now.
That's
Oh yeah, it was a
You're
great
okay with
weekend,
that?
and I was gonna golf twice, and it was just cold and windy, and I said, hell with it.
What about you, Lee? What'd you do this weekend?
Well, I traveled here. That's one thing I did. And then on Saturday, I did some cutting on the plasma. And I worked at my building.
Yeah.
Got utilities in. Garage doors in after 8 months of
8
waiting,
months?
You know, and nothing like just sitting around making a payment on something you can't use, you know.
Hey, I know all about that. Trust me, that's my day to day.
Well, you can't use it because you broke it.
Hey, quiet.
Hey, how many times did the Amazon guy come this last week?
We don't want to talk about it.
How many packages did you get?
We don't want to talk about
Yeah, come on. How many packages did you get?
it. For the record, it's not Amazon when you
Whatever.
are buying race car parts.
I figure that Dave goes and gets anything you guys need at this point.
He doesn't not go get everything we need. We had a UPS delivery every day. But the race car's back together, boys.
How many since Arizona? How many full race cars have you purchased with parts? Are we working?
Today's episode is going to be on CNC Plasma versus CNC Laser.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, yes, it's been an eventful start to 2022.
That's been awesome.
But nevertheless, let's talk a little bit about today's topic.
Yeah, we got everyone
like I said,
half asleep now.
yeah, now that everybody's falling asleep here. But obviously we have Lee on the show, and we thought it's good time to talk a little bit more about CNC Plasma because Lee knows a little bit about CNC Plasma.
A little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And then also, I feel like this topic comes up quite frequently. We hear people always talking about, CNC Plasma versus CNC Laser, and it seems like there's a lot of people who seem to think that they're the same.
Yeah, I agree with that. You get a lot of people that are, getting on the phone with us and they're debating.
Yeah.
What do I get? It's between a laser, it's between a plasma.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things that go into that.
Yeah, and the reality is you're going to spend more money with the laser. Simple as that.
Oh, yeah.
Like the easy answer right out of the gate is how much money do you have? Because if you ask me about CNC Plasma versus CNC Laser, I'm not going to waste your or my time until we talk about how much money do you have.
Right. What's your budget?
Yeah, because if you don't have the money for a laser, let's not even go down that road. Because the reality is a laser is going to cost you some money.
Right.
Which we'll talk about a little bit, further in the episode here. We'll talk a little bit about costs. But, I guess initially to kick things off, Jesse, when you're on the phone with somebody and somebody says, CNC Plasma versus CNC Laser, what initially comes to mind for you? I mean, what is the first thing you say to people?
They're looking for tight tolerances.
Yeah.
Yep.
Garrett, do you know anything about CNC Plasma or CNC Laser?
I just know laser's expensive.
Yeah, so that's what comes to mind for you is expensive?
For sure.
Lee, what comes to mind for you when you hear CNC Plasma versus CNC Laser?
You better have deep pockets and a lot of work piled up against that thing.
I'm noticing a common theme here for people. If you hear CNC Laser, you automatically think money.
Yeah.
Like,
Expensive.
it's going to cost you some money.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, for me, when I think CNC Plasma versus CNC Laser, it's apples and oranges is what I think of. They aren't the same. I mean,
Nope.
people who need CNC Plasmas generally don't need CNC Lasers. People who need CNC Lasers generally don't need a CNC Plasma. I mean, generally it's one or the other, with the exception of, you have customers out there who turn CNC Plasma money into CNC Laser money. You use your plasma to make enough money to buy your laser.
Right.
That is very possible. Actually, I see that quite often. But the reality is, very few customers jump into, I need a laser right out of the gate. The majority of people's applications and needs, they can get by with a plasma initially. And while, their market grows and their business demand grows and people's expectations grow, that's where you get, and typically end up in a laser or something like that. But it's a topic that can be hard to talk about because there's no correct answer. The reality is there's a reason why a CNC Plasma and a CNC Laser coexist.
Right.
That there's not one great answer. And then let me confuse you a little further, but then in plasma you have, traditional, standard air plasma versus high definition.
But just enough cost! Use the plasma can!
Right.
So you can get into, some different cutting there, which are completely apples to oranges in itself. When you get into high def, it's a much higher cut quality. When you get into laser, you have the same thing. You can get into fiber lasers versus CO2 lasers, and there's a whole lot of variables inside them. So as a head-to-head, they have differences, but then even internally, they have differences. So you have to make sure you're getting the right laser, and that's where I think a lot of people go wrong when they're looking at this kind of stuff, is that they just automatically assume that all lasers are the same, all plasmas are the same. Do I need a plasma or laser? No, you have a lot more questions to answer before you get
Bunch.
there. Yeah. The other thing to really think about is as you get into lasers, the right laser. There are Chinese lasers out there. There's a lot of them.
You bet.
Right.
you know. And the Chinese lasers, they don't perform like, you know, some of your higher quality lasers. I mean, just being honest with you, I mean, you're going to struggle a lot more with a Chinese laser than you will with, you know, a traditional higher end, you know, style laser. It's going to come down to price matters in laser.
Right.
If you're getting a cheap laser, you're getting cheap optics, you're getting cheap diodes, you're getting cheap whatever you want to call them. You know, all the components internally inside that laser are cheaper.
So you're going to burn out faster, right?
Well, there's so many variables. Yeah, you can burn
quicker.
them out. You can just simply not have the focal lens on them, and so they don't cut as well. You know, you don't have the wattage. You know, you're not going to actually get the cutting power.
So you're lacking cut quality.
Yeah, so you're really not getting laser cut quality at that point, or laser performance. And you know, people are like, "Oh, I get such good tolerances with this," but they don't realize that they're getting the same tolerance at the beginning of the plasma, but they spent a bunch more money. So you have to be careful depending on where you buy your laser from, because don't get me wrong, with a quality laser, you should be able to outcut plasma any day.
Absolutely.
There's no way a laser should ever compete with plasma. It should blow it out of the water. But you spent a bunch of money to do that.
Well, you know, Brandon, you're talking about a very focused beam versus a light bulb.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and the light bulb it trails behind sometimes, so that's why you have to make your adjustments in the cut. Where the laser is very focused and it's clean, but it'll still leave that hard edge just like a plasma will. So
yeah,
they're very much the same in a lot of aspects also.
I agree with that. I like that analogy, because yeah, exactly. It is a focused, you know, beam versus a light bulb essentially. And you know, obviously you're not cutting with a light bulb. So for anybody who's hearing that, we're not saying you're cutting with a light bulb, but what we're saying is that the way a light bulb works in a room is kind of how a plasma works. You know, it has that, you know, kind of larger area of radius, where a laser is very focused. You know, it's a spotlight, if you will, right? I mean, you're literally putting it where you want it and giving it a more focused attention on specifically the task at hand.
And a light bulb's exaggerated, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. And, you know, as you start looking at it, you know, really, you know, what is CNC Plasma capable of? Or, you know, for some people, CNC Plasma is very capable. However, it's also very dependent, right? And, you know, really, what does that mean for most people? Well, CNC Plasma is dependent on variables such as the operator. I mean, being honest with you, the operator can make a huge difference in how well a plasma system is going to run. But that being said, the same can be said for a laser. I mean, the operator can really mess that up too. So you have to know what you're doing in both, you know, to really get it. But the other thing about it is with plasma, you know, there's a lot of adjustability. There's a lot of tuning when it comes to it. You know, the parameters, things like that. I mean, you get book settings from these plasma companies, right?
Right.
Book settings are exactly what they are. Book settings. They're not
They're not the Bible.
Yeah, they aren't. And like so many people get hung up on that. You get these guys that call us up. Well, the book says that. Like, the book is just there to get you started.
It's a guide.
Yeah, like you got to change something.
Here's your starting point.
You know, and you know me, I'm kind of a smart ass.
No, you're not.
Yeah, right. I want to have fun with my answers most of the time, but some people take it too literal sometimes.
Right.
And guys will call up and they're like, "Well, I'm running the book settings, it's not working." So you probably should change something then, huh? Like, it's kind of my mentality of like, you know, or guys are like, "Well, I don't want to change that because that's not what the book says." Well, how's the book settings working for you? Trust me, let's change something. You know, like,
let's just try.
Yeah, like, trust me, there's a reason why the book settings exist. Yes, it gets you in the ballpark.
Yeah.
It's not the answer to everything. And there's a reason why some things just aren't listed in the book, because there isn't a perfect book setting for it. So, you know, when you start looking at, you know, parameters and adjustments, that's something the operator has to become really good at.
Gotta have an eye for it.
An eye, an ear. I mean, you know, sometimes you hear it, right? I mean, you hear your plasma when it's cutting right or when it's not cutting right.
When I'm cutting, I watch it and I can see what's going on, and I have to make adjustments on the fly.
Yep.
Sometimes it's arc voltage. I have to do it on the fly.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes it's environmental, you know, changes.
Absolutely. Humidity in the air changes things. Temperature. Things run better when it's cold.
Yeah.
Versus hot and humid.
Of course, because, you know, and that, I'm glad you said it, because a lot of people don't realize, like, you're still cutting with a flame, right?
Sure.
But that flame is generated based off an electrode. Mm-hmm. Well, electricity and moisture.
Yep.
How well do they get along?
Really well.
You know, like, the more moisture you have, and that's what a lot of people, like, I get guys that call us up, and it's a lot of times it's, you know, newer plasma people that call up frustrated because they're not getting the cut quality they thought they'd get. But then you start asking questions about, like, what are you running for air? Mm-hmm. What do you have for an air compressor? What do you have for a dryer?
Yep.
And then suddenly it's, I don't have a dryer. I don't have anything. I'm running straight off the compressor. Okay, well, let's start there.
Let's have a conversation quick.
Or what about this factor? They got a worn out compressor. It's leaking oil into the system and creating a huge problem with your cut quality, and you're losing your consumables twice as fast.
Absolutely.
Or if not, you can fail within a very short period of time.
Yeah, and that's something that I think is being lost in this whole new, hypertherm sink, right? Mm-hmm. I'm hearing a lot of people say, well, now I got to replace the whole thing. It's like, that's a good thing. Like, in my honest opinion, like, I get it. There's guys out there that think they're going to spend more money in the consumables, but they're really not. Like, long time. We've been testing this a long time, and Lee, you've been cutting with it this week a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely,
but they're really simple. And the nice thing about it, you can't screw it up.
Right.
Like, when you change a consumable, you should change it all. And guys think like, well, I'm going to get less, money, or I'm going to get less for my money now. No, you're going to get more for your money because your cut quality goes up significantly. And Garrett, didn't you post something earlier this week on a guy with a hypertherm sink 105 or something, right?
Yeah, he was cutting, what was it, 1.5 inches?
Yeah, something like that. I was going to say.
Inch and a quarter? Yeah, it was.
It was 3/4.
3/4?
Yeah, 3/4.
And then someone just posted 1.5 inches.
Yeah, I say there was a second one that I saw after that. Yeah,
Yep.
but exactly. So the 3/4, and you see these cuts and they're beautiful right out of the gate.
Yep.
And it's because you're not having the variable of I got the wrong swirl ring, I got the wrong consumable. These guys don't have to look at the electrode and go, do I need to change this? Do I not need to change it? It's simple. You change the whole thing together and you're done. And the cool thing about it is it's got an RFID chip in it, so you can see how many starts and stops you have in it. You can actually judge the life that you're getting out of these consumables, and long term, you're going to save money. Yes, initially, up front, it's going to cost you a little bit more because your consumables are a little bit more money. But your performance of your plasma is significantly increased. And that's where this is, some of that environmental change. As you were talking about, moisture in your consumables is a bad thing. Getting the humidity out, the temperature change, some of that stuff does matter. But what really blows me away, what people don't realize, is that the ground that you have in your building,
Oh, yeah.
the noise from electronics in your building,
Yep.
all of those things will 110% affect your plasma's performance. So rather than pointing the finger immediately at plasma doesn't work, let's back up. Let's take a look at what we're doing. Before we assume that you need a laser, let's start making sure you're getting the best cut quality you can get on your plasma.
Yeah, see the full scope of things, right?
Correct.
Speaking about the ground,
Yeah.
once in a while, like when I'm running like a rusty plate,
Mhm.
I have a secondary ground I sometimes put on.
Yeah.
Just so I verify that I've got things taken care of. And as the slats start to wear out, which is typical, you'll get dross on it, whatnot, and
Yeah.
even I'm a little lazy. I don't want to clean them off. I put that secondary ground on. I'm guaranteed.
Absolutely. No, and I love that because guys just assume that like I've done this the same for everything I've ever done. I don't need to change anything. But sometimes it is. The material will require you to make changes.
Absolutely.
Like you said.
If you don't get that good ground, well, what do?
Yeah.
You find a good ground.
Correct.
So like in my case, I had extra ground wire that came with the machine when I didn't need the length. So I went ahead and cut it down, and I got on the back of the ground on the machine, the secondary. I got a welding clamp, magnetic.
Yep.
Down she goes.
Yep. And the other thing too with that is you're talking about rusted material. There are cases where you need to remove the rust. I mean,
Absolutely.
I tell everybody like you should buy a plasma table. That's great, but now you should also buy yourself a little metal scrub wheel essentially. Like I have one in my shop and I use it on everything that I start welding. Obviously for race cars I do a decent number of welding, especially since I crash a lot. But
Should be a professional welder.
I should be, but. The reality is you gotta clean off the you have to clean off the debris. You have to clean off the rust, the scale, whatever it is that you're working with. You don't weld on those surfaces. You clean up your surface before you weld. It's the same thing before your plasma cut.
Right.
If you're gonna try to do that same process, you need to clean up your materials. And so as you start looking at it, like there's certain things that do affect your performance. And obviously noise is something we talk about. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, your plasma is very dependent on noise. And so if you're welding right next to where your plasma is running, it's going to affect your plasma, 100%.
What if I'm cranking the tunes?
Well, that's not the same noise.
Oh.
It's the wrong kind of noise.
That's the wrong kind of noise?
Wrong kind of noise.
I think mine dances around like a little bit when it has noise.
I had to.
That type of noise.
I would leave it up to you to do that one.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
But all of it makes a difference in your performance, of course. And as you start getting into it, the ground of your machine is a huge thing. If you don't know, though, always ask. That's my recommendation is if you don't know or you're not sure, that's why you have tech support, right?
Just pick up the phone and call?
That's what I would do.
That's what I would do, too.
Heck, I've used it. I've had problems, and I've called up.
Can you
tech
send an
support
email?
team.
I think you can email even,
You can email
yep,
too,
that
right?
works still. Hey, does that work still, Garrett?
I don't know. We'd have to ask him.
I have to ask him. Where else can they figure out this information, Garrett?
ShopSabre.com.
Hey, there we go. There is also a form on our website that you can fill out that will actually help you there too. So, but one thing I would always say is don't assume plasma can do the work you need to do until you've honestly tried it.
Right.
I tell everybody, sometimes you need to pay somebody to cut some parts out for you.
Yeah, do a test.
Do a test cut.
Yep.
I've had guys who just assume, right? Oh, plasma's gonna be able to do that, no problem. And then I get their file and I'm like, nope, not gonna happen. You're not cutting holes that small on a regular basis, the tolerances you want to hold.
Right.
And the reality is can you do it? Yeah, we've proven that. We can cut some really tight tolerance holes and do some really small stuff. But when you get into some of that tighter tolerance stuff, the variables are so great that you better be prepared for constant change.
Yeah.
Because the tighter the variables become, or the tighter the tolerances, become, the larger the variables become. Little things can affect big changes.
Oh, huge.
And so you have to be aware of that. So, as you start looking at it, it might be necessary to pay someone to try, your project out first. Find out if it's going to work for you. But, what does plasma really offer you? Well, up front, it's a cost reduction, right?
Right.
Plasma's, the cheapest plasma I've seen out there is usually a few $1,000s,
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. They're nowhere near the same quality as a higher quality plasma. So
No.
I'm going to kind of steer away from that discussion.
They're like the
in itself.
tinker toys of plasma.
They kind of are, yeah. But I mean, really, I say the bottom market for a plasma is $5,000. Bottom market. And on the top end, you're in the $100,000 range.
Yeah, for sure.
So that it's a wide range of budget there.
It is.
Granted, the majority of your quality plasmas are going to fall, for a light industrial application, 25, 20, 20, 25,
30.
Yeah, I was going to say 20 to 40 probably, depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yes, from an entry level hobbyist, you can get under 20.
Yeah.
You're not getting it into an industrial machine under 20.
Right.
Simply not happening. When you get into that 20 to 40, you end up with a product that typically is going to be designed for day-to-day use. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you start looking at the 40 to 100,000, right?
Yeah.
Those are your industrial, level machines where you're running 2 or 3 shifts a day.
Right.
Or you're doing a much tighter tolerance cutting where you're getting into high definition.
Right.
Right? The benefit to plasma in general is they're fairly easy to run. I mean, all things said and done. I mean, they're fairly easy to run in terms of actually running the machine and actually maintaining the machine. There's not a lot of maintenance items on a plasma machine. I mean, when you look at it, it's greasing the bearings, changing your water if you have a water table, or changing your filters if you have a downdraft. You're changing your consumables as necessary, and slats. I mean, that's the majority of what you're dealing with there. Now, obviously, you'll have some air going to the machine. You'll want to think about, filters and, dryers, things like that. But there's not a lot of messing around with the table there. The majority of what you're doing is tuning to your cut, not actually adjusting the machine a lot.
That's fair. Yeah.
Right?
Yep. That's
Okay.
pretty fair. Yeah.
The other advantage to a plasma is it can run in a fairly dirty environment.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? I mean, we've seen that. I mean, I've seen some shops where you're like, that is definitely a dirty environment, and the machines run no problem. So, for the most part, plasma can work in a fairly uncomfortable environment. But that doesn't mean you don't have to do any, cleaning up around the machine. You still should.
Definitely clean your
But, yeah. But, and then, in a conventional plasma system, generally you're holding a 030 tolerance is what I would say is standard, and that's what Hypertherm calls for. Hypertherm says the traditional, or conventional plasma will be a 030 accuracy and produce cuts with typically 3 to 5 degrees of bevel. Now, that is traditional. That doesn't mean we can't do better, right, Lee?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
He's over here
I'm watching Lee. Yeah,
He's
like
getting excited.
Yeah, he's squirming in his seat over here, like,
yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah.
Unleash him.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is that is considered acceptable tolerances on a plasma.
Yeah.
That's what people need to hear. Like, That is acceptable. If if you call up and say, I'm getting plus or minus, 15, 0.15 or 0.015, excuse me, I'm going to tell you you're within spec.
So what are you complaining about?
Yeah, like that is considered tolerance. Like you have to be aware of that. So if you're expecting more than that, you're expecting probably too much from plasma on a consistency basis.
Or you need to change something.
Correct. And that's what I was just going to say is now Lee is very talented with plasma. And I will say that firsthand because he's done things with plasma that even Hypertherm has told him shouldn't be done. Right.
Yeah, that is very correct.
I've literally witnessed those conversations that Hypertherm said you couldn't have done this on a plasma. And he's like, no, I did it with your plasma. Not a plasma, yours. Like he's told them that.
He can't do it.
That does not mean it's not possible. But it takes some work, doesn't it, Lee?
Absolutely. You have to look at everything, and if you're not happy with what you have, you have to make the effort to correct a drawing, a tool path, an offset, a setting. You have to make that effort. And
sometimes it's just adjusting, and I've seen you do it here. You'll say, you know what, Brent, I'm going to go cut this so I can see what I need to adjust.
Absolutely.
You cut it knowing that it's not going to be to your tolerance.
Right.
Because you're like, you know what, I'm going to have to make some adjustments, whether it's the kerf compensation, whether it's lead-ins, lead-outs, whether it's, torch height control. You know going into it, this is going to get me close, but I can do better.
Absolutely.
I have 412 snowflakes sitting here on my desk. And, yeah, I mean, I'm serious. But the thing is a majority of those were cut in first try.
Yes.
Because you've learned that, okay, I know if I adjust these things, it's going to help me.
Well, the year previous, they were much bigger and they weren't as intricate. But, over time, I just start playing with stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you know what? We can do this. We try this. We'll do that. And every time you do something, you learn something.
Yep.
And I also learned from the different people who own plasmas, like through the Sabre Nation and things like that, or other sites. I learned what they do. So it's always a learning process. And the more you learn, the better you are. So that's it. A lot of this relies on you as an individual to step up.
Yeah, seek out the information you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always said that. Like it's the same thing for I'm gonna go back to racing because that's kind of my my thing. But these guys, they just assume race cars are fast, right? Oh, that guy's car is faster because of this. That guy more than likely is out seeking more information than you. That's what it is. He's not beating you on the track on Saturday nights. He's beating you in the shop Monday through Friday. That's where he's seeking out that information. And it's the same thing in your shops. Like when you're cutting parts and you're seeing, well, so-and-so's plasma cuts better than mine. What's he doing when you're not watching him that allows him to be better than you?
That's just like everything in life. You look at everything in life.
Yeah.
Someone that's successful or someone's doing something awesome. Why?
Yep.
Well, they put the time in somewhere that maybe you're not seeing. They read more books. They advance their learning, right? They're constantly gaining some kind of knowledge.
Correct.
While you're watching Netflix.
Well, there's the 1%ers out there. I would say the 1%ers exist where they just fall into things, they're lucky, and things work, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Those people do exist.
Yep.
They're not in this room, I'll promise you that.
You're right.
Not a single
Not one of us are those people.
No.
We are all grinders. And I will say that firsthand. I've seen every person in this room grinding and trying to figure out how to get better. Like what can I do to get better? Garrett, you are just out of control over there. Garrett can't help himself.
I think it's how many times you said grinding.
I know it was. The look on a 21-year-old's face when you say that, he just instantly he's thinking of nightclubs. I guarantee it.
I want to just start saying words and see what happens.
Yeah, just
you'd have to
the look on his face. He just went straight pale. Like, oh god,
it was a good sentence.
Yeah,
Pretty good.
But no, like honestly, like I've seen every one of you guys on a Saturday morning working.
Yeah.
Every one of you. I've seen, Lee, obviously, I've seen you here working late. I've seen you coming in early. We do things that we need to do to get better.
Right.
And sometimes we do it with the intention of how can I fail?
Yep.
Right?
I even posted I worked on Easter.
Yeah.
To try to get things
I watched
picked
it.
up. Yeah.
I saw it. And that's the thing is we worked here at ShopSabre on Easter. Like we do things that people don't see. Everybody sees what's in the, the spotlight, right?
In your bubble.
Yeah, but the reality is nobody realizes how much is happening behind the scenes.
Right.
And the same can be said for your cutting quality on a plasma. How much has to happen behind the scene to give you that perfect cut up front?
Yep.
Sometimes it's a matter of somebody spent a week learning, or a month, or a year, or whatever they did. They were spending the time understanding the technology further, so that the way when they finally needed to do something to tight tolerances, they were able to achieve it.
Can I add in there
Yeah.
that a lot of times when you're looking at those tight tolerances,
Yeah.
it's what you do with the drawing from the onset. So
Yep.
if you have a lot of nodes in there, if you want a straight line, let's say you're doing a straight line and you would rather have 2 points than 3 points.
Yep.
Because it's a straight line then. Or an arc, you want 2 points. You want a true arc.
Yeah.
So if you have 37 nodes all the way around that arc,
Yep.
there's now 37 points that we have tool pathing to.
Mm-hmm.
So that arc no longer becomes a true arc.
Yep.
And then you can see that in the cut as it comes around.
Yep.
So you have to take time to get your tolerances in. You have to take the time to edit your drawings and really try to make things perfect, because what you do there affects your end product.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that 100%. Like, that's the number one thing we do when people say they're getting bad cuts is we say, send me your drawing. I want to look at it first, because 90% of the problems start there, And as you start getting into, let's take a little further. So we talked about conventional plasma, right? 3 to 5 degrees of bevel. Sometimes you get down to 1 degree, depending on the thickness of the material. Mm-hmm. Your tolerances obviously are, like I said, 0.030 is considered acceptable. But when you get into high tolerance systems, you cut tolerance down. And generally, high tolerance systems are high definition.
Right.
And at that point, you're going to drop down to a 0.010 tolerance. Mm-hmm. So as you start seeing that, now you're cutting your tolerances down by a third, and your accuracy, your bevel can be as little as 0 degrees of bevel. And, typically your highest on a high def is 3 degrees. So at its worst case scenario, it's still better than a lot of times your best case scenario on the other one.
Yeah.
So it's like, you have to remember that. That's why you spend money on high definition, is when tolerances do get tighter.
Right.
But, when you start looking at hole quality, rule of thumb really starts to change a little bit there. Holes, are hard to do. 3/16 is really the smallest hole you ever are going to see somebody truly attempt on a regular basis. Can you do smaller? Yes. But is it truly round on both sides? No. Generally speaking, when you flip it upside down, the bottom side is not going to be round. My rule of thumb has always been 1/4 inch holes. I tell everybody 1/4 inch at the smallest. As you get into holes, you start thinking about the 1-to-1 ratio.
Right.
Your hole size cannot be smaller than the plate thickness if you want a true hole.
Right.
It can't. So it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you're cutting 1/2 inch material, a 1/2 inch hole is your smallest hole you're going to do with a plasma.
Yep.
And that's going to be considered a 1-to-1, and therefore your cut quality may be variable there.
For sure.
Your best cut is 1.5 to 1. Right?
Yeah.
So again, as you get down, now let's say I get into gauge material. The 1-to-1 ratio goes out the window.
Right.
Again, 1/4 inch is the smallest hole. 1-to-1 doesn't exist anymore.
Nope.
So if your hole starts falling under 1/4 inch, you're going to start seeing a cut quality diminish.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can't cut holes smaller than 1/4 inch?
No.
Lee,
Well,
take it away. I know.
Yeah. You can. It does limit you when you start getting down on the smaller stuff, because obviously the plasma has a diameter.
Yep.
So at
That's the
some
curve.
point you're pretty much, as you pierce through it, you're going, okay, well, that's as far as I can go with it.
Correct.
And your lead-ins will get to be so small that you're not going to get a perfect hole.
Correct.
But you can do it, but that's a consumable change.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of thin materials. You can go down to a fine cut consumable, which helps out exponentially.
Of course, yeah, and that's the thing is, like, generally speaking with plasma, another plasma offering is that higher speed on thicker materials generally, slower on thinner materials versus laser. A laser generally is much quicker on thin materials, but much slower on thick materials. So
Right.
the advantage to a plasma, it is much less expensive on thicker cutting demands for one, and offers more versatility.
Yep.
Because realistically, with a plasma, you can attack a wide range of materials.
Absolutely.
With a laser, let's look at those options. What does a laser offer you? Well, they're higher upfront costs. I mean, they're starting at $150,000 usually for a decent laser. Where before we were topping out in plasma at about 100. Mm-hmm. So you got a little bit of gap to close there, right?
A little.
If you're cutting signs out of your garage, probably $150,000 laser isn't the go-to right away, right? I mean,
No.
Unless you're made of money.
yeah, not a good one usually. But the advantage to a laser is that it's tighter tolerances. There's less kerf there because, again, you're dealing with a cylinder versus an actual diamond, if you will, right? The tolerances typically on a laser are thousandths. You're talking 1 to 3 thousandths. It's a little tighter tolerances,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But, again, they're still environmentally, variable. There's certain things in your environment that will affect that, but they also are higher maintenance costs.
Oh, yeah.
Your consumables are significantly more money.
It's much more expensive for a laser.
Your mirrors, your optics, everything that you got to deal with goes up
lens
exponentially. Well, yeah, I was going to say, change your lens one time. Trust me, you'll find out how expensive those machines are. And guess what? Don't let any debris get on that lens, because guess what happens to a lens when debris gets on it? It burns the lens.
Yeah.
As soon as you burn a lens, it's done.
Ooh.
So the consumable costs increase. You know, they're more complex because, again, you have lenses, you have optics, you have a lot more moving parts inside these things.
Right.
Again, as we talked about, the environment is very critical for these. They need to be in a clean environment. They really,
room,
yeah.
right?
They generally don't do well in a very dirty environment.
No.
And that's why you see with a lot of lasers, there's a lot of, shrouds and bellows, and they try to keep as much debris away from the laser as they can, but dust finds its way into areas it shouldn't sometimes. So dirty shops don't do well with lasers. The advantage to a laser is they are much quicker on thin material. They move. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
they move on thin material really fast. When you get into sheet metal, they can fly. But they're slower on your thicker cutting demands because it takes a lot more for a laser to get through material.
It takes a lot more money to get through thick material.
Correct. Exactly. I was just going to say that. Like, $150,000 laser is not going through a very thick piece of material. I mean, you're talking, I've seen lasers out there that are $1 million.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
$1 million to get through the material people are trying to do that you can do with a plasma that's going to cost $40,000.
Yeah.
So that's where I say, like, your tolerances really matter, because if you say, I have to hold, this is what the easiest way for me to put this. Do you measure in micrometers or tape measures? That's the honest truth. If you measure in micrometers, you need a laser. If you measure in tape measures, a plasma will do just fine for you. Like, the reality is I always tell guys, if the first thing out of their mouth is, I'm going to take the micrometer out, I want to see how many thousandths this thing is holding, you're probably going to disappoint yourself unless you're really going to spend a lot of time on every cut. They're not ideal for production cutting when you're getting down to thousandths. Right. That's where a laser comes in. 1 to 3 thousandths is a laser, not a plasma. Now, that being said, the higher maintenance costs are something you need to think about, because your laser already costs you $150,000, and you're probably going to spend $20,000 to $30,000 a year on consumables.
Ugh.
So
you can buy a new machine every year.
Correct, and that's what you need to think about.
Are lasers dangerous or no?
Well, of course, yeah, because you have light bounce. You have to think about that with a laser. Laser beams can bounce, so you have to take into consideration that reflective materials, metals specifically, if you don't have the right laser, you're sending a beam of light bouncing around the room, and it can cost you your vision. I mean, that's why they make laser goggles. It can cost you, holes in your body that you don't want to have. Trust me, I've seen a laser beam go through a guy's hand. It's not pretty, but it's the reality of what lasers do. Lasers are dangerous. Plasmas, they don't really bounce around the room.
No,
they either light and it's a fire, you got flame, or you don't.
Just don't look at it.
Yeah, don't look at it.
Yeah, Lee, don't look at it.
Yeah, don't look at the flame.
I saw you looking at it yesterday. It's like Nemo.
I felt like a bug. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, like I said, the advantage is, with the lasers, they do produce some pretty incredible cuts. I mean, you can do some pretty awesome stuff. A lot of sheet metal work that I've seen done with lasers is pretty impressive. When you start looking at where a laser might be worth your investment, it's, your thinner materials that need tight tolerances, high cutting demands, wide range of materials too. A laser can work with multiple materials: plastics, steel, rubber, cloth. There's other materials a laser can work with. Plasma doesn't work on those materials.
No, it doesn't.
Plasma is going to work on steel, on your metals, your aluminums, those materials. It's not going to work with wood. It doesn't work with plastic. I mean, it'll work with wood once. You'll start stuff on fire, But the the honest answer is obviously you don't want to have dust around your plasma table, right?
Right.
Bad things can happen. The other thing that you have to take into consideration is, how are you going to utilize the machine? Is it a day-to-day thing?
Right. Is it here and there?
Yeah, precision cutting, 1/4 inch bolt holes. Then maybe a laser makes sense for you, or a drill, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why when you look at plasma, where's plasma's worth the investment? Well, you got a wide range of materials. Again, if you're still running, aluminum, stainless steel, different materials, you can do it with plasma. But do you have a lower budget, lower costs? That's where plasma is great. If you need to stay under $100,000, Are you, as I said, tape measure parts? That's a good spot for a plasma system. Steel cutting, aluminum, stainless steel, mild, etc. Less precision, typically 1/4 inch or larger holes. Typically tolerances that are a 1-to-1 to a 1.5-to-1 range.
Right.
It's a great option for plasma. But, when you look at applications, aircraft parts, signs, job shops, furniture parts are all good things, to look at laser versus plasma.
Right.
As you get into aerospace, laser.
Oh, for sure.
As you get into food grade safe stuff, laser.
Yep.
Now, as you start getting into signs, decor, furniture, you're making a bracket for a skidster. A lot of that stuff you could do on a plasma without a problem.
Can I throw something in there?
Yeah.
I challenge anybody with a laser to be able to take the laser off and walk it over to something else and cut in a driveway.
Yeah.
Where the plasma's versatile enough, I can take the actual mechanical torch off,
Correct.
take a hand torch, put it in there,
Yep.
go out to the driveway, cut an I-beam, and go
Yeah.
back and pull my I-beam back in, put it in, do my switch over, and
Yeah.
go. Or I can actually take my power unit off the wall, take it to a remote job site,
Yep.
and it gives me that versatility to be able to do that if I want to.
Yeah, the only person I think that can keep up with you on that is Star Wars. I'm pretty sure they had the lightsaber.
Well,
Yeah.
they did have that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember that.
I'm
yeah.
checking that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had
Yeah.
one. So I'm not challenging. I'm sorry, Darth Vader, if you're listening. That was Lee only that was challenging you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just thought it.
No, but he's, that's the truth. Like, you do have versatility there because that goes back to plasma. Plasma's great for versatility.
Right.
Because you can utilize that same tool for multiple things in your shop.
Sure, absolutely.
Where a laser's a laser.
Yeah, you're just stuck with it.
Yeah. Does it fit on the table? No. Then I can't use it,
And you need a tow motor to move it around.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
yeah, they're not small usually.
No. not at
So
all.
the reality is like in today's world, laser and plasma both exist because there are applications that a laser and a plasma are better for. So there isn't a right answer to that. There's no answer that we can give you that says, yeah, you need a laser, you need a plasma. No, you ultimately need to ask yourself, which one can I afford? Which one do I require?
Which outcome is acceptable, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I've had guys call me up and they want to cut washers. You're not cutting washers in a production environment with a plasma. It's just
pretty
not.
ones.
Yeah, they're not gonna.
No.
They're not gonna be to the tolerances. I mean, when you look at washers, majority of those are done in a press, or they're done with a laser, depending on what you're buying. But there's a reason why other tools exist. There's a reason why presses exist. There's a reason why water jet exists. There's certain applications where plasma isn't right for it.
Right.
But there's a large market out there for plasma. I mean, the sign industry, you see a lot of these, go on Etsy once and look at all the signs you can buy. Go look at furniture. I mean, we're building a table stand right now, right?
Right, yep.
I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with plasma that'll give you some pretty incredible finishes if you just spend the time learning the tool.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't learn it, you'll just never find out what the potential is.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, trust me, your smartphones, everybody takes, I think that's what's funny about this.
Yeah.
Is everybody takes the time to learn their smartphone.
Sure. Yep.
Everybody takes the time to learn their computer.
Mhm.
They learn all these other things that are just conveniences in life, right?
Yep.
But the one thing that can truly make them money and make them successful, they don't have the time for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have time to figure this out. You don't have time to figure that out, but you can sit there and play on your smartphone and watch TikTok for 9 hours.
Things that make me want to bang my head against the wall, right?
Yeah. Like,
Man.
seriously, like, you have to think about that stuff. Is like, take the energy you're spending else. I mean, Garrett spent 26 hours this last weekend playing video games.
24.
24 hours.
Great men like video games.
24 hours
It's
playing
an
video games.
entire day.
Don't come at me like that, all right? Let me have
Just
a
saying.
weekend to chill.
Don't come at me. But the reality is,
at least he can remember what he did this weekend.
That's true.
Right? Let's give him that.
Let's give him
that
that.
one.
I gave him that one. But the reality is, I mean, that's what my point is, Garrett is just my example, but how many people spend their time playing video games? How many people spend the time watching Netflix?
Yep.
How many people binge watch a show on a weekend?
Yep.
Yet, Monday morning they come in and they're upset because they can't figure out how to run the machine.
Right.
Like, I get it. Sometimes nobody wants to work overtime, right? But sometimes it's necessary so you're not working overtime anymore.
You have to.
Like, that's what I think people forget is, like, sometimes none of this stuff happens by not investing in your time.
Right.
It's the old adage that, you're going to get what you, put into it. You're going to get out of it what you put in.
Right.
And if you don't
Absolutely.
put any effort in, you're going to get no effort back out of it. Unless you are a 1%er.
Yeah.
Unless you're one of those people that just are lucky.
Yep.
But the reality is, majority of us have to figure this stuff out.
We do. We have to put the work in.
Practice makes perfect.
That's what they say.
Or
People
close
ask
to
all
it.
the time, like, how hard is this? Well, it's as hard as you make it.
Yeah.
If you get in and you do the training, you come
Yep.
to in-person training, you use the resources that are available to you, and you put the time in to learn it, it's not going to be that hard.
Yeah, you gotta do what you need to do to be successful.
But if you sit on your ass and put no time in, and the machine shows up, and you think you're just going to click and time to make a sign, you're wrong.
Well, that's my favorite too. It's okay. There's no hidden message out here. Lead times are long right now because the world's supply chain issues exist, right? I mean, Lee couldn't get garage doors for 8 months. Okay, if he can't get a garage door, which has a lot less moving parts than a CNC machine, I mean, let's think about that for a moment there. But you get these guys that they call you every single week, wondering about the machine update, wondering where things are at, getting irritated that things are still longer than they expected, and it's like where we were up front, they're going to be long lead times right now, right? So you have 12 weeks, 14 weeks, whatever it is, to wait on a machine. Use that time to learn something.
Yeah, capitalize on that.
Watch some videos. We have a lot, I think.
Yeah, watch every video I have.
Yep.
Because I promise you, you probably still don't have enough time for me to build a machine to watch every video I have.
Right.
You'll run out of time versus videos.
There's so much content.
You know what the crazy thing is like when I was laid off for COVID, and what did I do? I
Yep.
got up the next morning at 4:30 after being laid off, and then I called unemployment for like ever, and then and sat on hold. But after I got off the unemployment that first day, I got up at 4:30 every morning, and I sat down on that computer and I just hammered away at it,
Yep.
hammered away, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn my craft. I'm going to take the time to take advantage of this time.
Yeah.
And we saw like exponential leaps.
Yep.
Remember back when
Oh, yeah.
I'd call you up and say, hey,
Yeah.
look at this. And, I did that Cleveland Rocks, and
Yep.
we were like, what?
Yeah.
And I didn't think I could do it, but,
Yep.
I just started playing with it, and I got to it.
Yep.
But I learned my craft. I took my time. Now,
But how many people didn't do anything during that time? During the COVID period when everybody was at home, how many people just sat around binge watching Netflix?
I was here, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what I'm saying, though. I mean,
Right.
seriously.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, how many people did that?
Right. Everybody.
You heard about people all the time. They're sitting at home. Garrett raised his hand.
When I was in college, I had an excuse.
Yeah,
That was
but,
fun.
But the reality of it is like that's really. I mean, people they didn't utilize the time to improve themselves. They looked at it as a free ride, right?
Right.
I don't got to do anything right now. Like I have an excuse.
Yep. The whole world's off right
Yeah,
now.
nobody's doing anything right now. Like no, the reality is like, go get it.
Yep.
Go learn it. Like I'll guarantee you, during COVID, I didn't slow down, not once.
No, I don't think we could.
Yeah. Not once did I slow down. I spent
I know.
every moment I had learning something, taking advantage of something, trying to better myself because I knew eventually we're going to pull out of this thing on the other end of it. And those, with, knowledge is power, right? The more you know,
Yeah.
the better you're going to be when you come out of this thing.
Heck,
We spent a lot of time doing that.
I had a leap. That was when I really leaped with the engraving also. I mean, that was the big jump.
Correct?
Because, I would work till about noon. I'd get in the truck and go over to the machine. And
Yep.
I would play till about 5 o'clock because
Yep.
that was my work day.
Yep.
So nothing changed except I focused on learning.
Yep.
And the outcome is what we see today.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it wasn't by mistake.
Nope.
There was a lot of messed up material. There was a lot of, well, that didn't work.
right.
There was a lot of like, what did I do wrong here? But, we've all done it. We've figured it out. Over time, you have to do things and you have to make mistakes. You have to be willing to spend money. I always tell everybody that. The one thing that frustrates me the most is when people are trying to learn their machine. They're, well, I'm not cutting any more material. I can't spend any more money. Then why do you have the machine? Because the reality is, yes, you're going to spend money when you're learning.
Mhm.
You have to wreck material.
You don't send free material to test with?
But my point is
Weird.
yeah, I mean, but even that, like, if you're expecting to not ever waste material, you're expecting too much.
You are.
You're never going to learn. Like, trust me, again, I have a race car that gets wrecked all the time.
True.
Like, it's not wrecked because I don't care. It's
Right.
not because, like, oh, I'm trying something. I do something outside of my comfort zone. And I know that I'm not going to be 100% successful every single time.
Scared money doesn't make money.
Truth.
That's true.
Scared money doesn't make money. Exactly. I love that. Let's put that on a
T-shirt.
poster. Yeah.
Bumper sticker.
Bumper sticker. Yeah. Can I put that on the back of my race car? But yeah, I mean, the reality of it is like, seriously though, you have to think about that. Like, comfort zones are comfortable for a reason.
Yeah.
Everybody else is doing it. You gotta step outside that comfort zone. You gotta learn.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to evolve or you'll dissolve.
Hey.
You know, I actually thought this episode was gonna be kind of short. I think it's one of the longest episodes we've had.
We might be getting there.
We're getting there. I'll tell you that much. But
Got another 2 hours worth of talking to do.
2 hours ago. No. But no, I mean, seriously, I hope this helps somebody out there when they're looking at plasma versus router, when they're thinking about plasma, trying to understand plasma. Like, there's a lot you can do with plasma. You don't have to spend a fortune on a laser in a lot of cases.
Yep.
Now, little baby asterisks in the corner, that doesn't mean in all cases. Some cases you need to buy a laser. Stop being cheap.
Right.
Go buy your laser if you need a laser.
I love that. We've gotten into those conversations, right?
Yep.
The guy really wants the plasma machine for
Yep.
this, and it's not going to happen. You need a laser.
Yeah, I've had that conversation where you're just like, as bad as you want me to say yes to you, I'm not going to lie to you and say yes.
I'm sitting here telling you,
Go
no,
buy a laser.
I can't do it.
Can't do it.
Please sell it to me. I can't.
Yeah,
You'll hate
like,
me.
You'll hate me.
You need a laser.
I don't want to end up on a dartboard in your basement. I'm sorry.
Right.
Nope.
Go find the other guy out there that'll sell you.
Yeah, somebody will lie to you.
Yeah,
Go
someone
find that
will lie
guy.
to you. Go find him.
Go find that guy. It's not me.
Nope, not today.
But yeah, so like I said, update your equipment with ShopSabre. It's a great opportunity for you to look at stuff. Look at our standard definition, or if you need a little bit tighter tolerances, look at our high definition stuff.
ShopSabre.com.
ShopSabre.com. Buy from someone who knows the industry. That's one thing I will say. Plasma is very technology driven, and apparently we're
wrapping up.
We're already wrapping her up. All right. Well, with that, I'm Brandon.
I'm Jesse.
Thanks for talking shop with ShopSabre.